What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? So today we are going over our tier list. We posted the tier list 2 days ago. Obviously I covered a good amount of information in that tier list video, but I want to get in depth and talk about each of these gods. So those of you who really have strong, trying to make these strong arguments against where I'm placing stuff, you'll understand why I'm placing them where they are and what makes them so good. So when you play them, you know what you're looking to excel at. So with that said, today we're covering the SS tier and the C tier. I want to cover the top tier gods and the bottom tier gods. Get into it. Let's talk about it. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Honestly, Smite content not doing too good on YouTube right now, so we're trying to change it up and get more information out to you guys. So maybe you all are having more fun playing the game, watch content. I don't know. First up on the list is Quan. What makes Quan so strong right now? Quan's been good for a while, and obviously the lower tier Quan is, the better he's perceived. A lot of people think he's OP in bronze and silver because he's really basic. They're like, oh, it's OP, all you do is press alt. There's a lot more that goes into it when you're playing against people who actually have fingers and toes and can play the game. What really goes into it right now and pushes them over the top is how strong mages are in general. So you have Quan being the core mage jungler. It's meant to be a jungler as a mage. And the top two classes in Smite, or roles in Smite right now, are mid and ADC. Mid in the late game is one-shotting with, an ultimate or 2 other abilities. And it's mainly items as well as their class passive they gained, which hasn't really been nerfed. And that's what's really, at its core, putting Quan, up there as like tippity top. And it's the fact that you don't have to go into these auto attack queen builds, which were kind of traditional to Quan, and you can shift over into these ability, I'm a mage just in melee range and burst the same amount of damage as a mage. On top of that, your early game and your mid game is very good clear wise. You don't really struggle with anything. They just buffed Bumba's hammer, which makes it even more viable. They just buffed Eye of the Jungle, which makes that, a top tier starter for Quan. And then besides that, you're able to camp and farm the 2 roles that aren't really super safe right now. Supports and solos hang out a lot of the time in the match at lower HP. So as an Quan, if you're able to get on top of them when they're 60%, 70%, 50%, it takes 1 or 2 abilities, you're able to execute them because of the execute threshold. That is just piling on to this already immensely strong kit and build and everything else that's excelling for him. So that's why you're seeing Quan at the top. He should be banned most games, but I've actually seen with the newer gods coming in being buffed, your Aphrodites, everything else, Quan gets through a lot, like a lot. So start playing it because you could easily farm. Doesn't matter your bracket. It's not a crazy high skill god. I think the biggest thing is shift away from this idea that Quan is an auto attack god and shift into the idea that Quan is going to really just be a mage that you burst on and get out, burst on and get out, burst on and get out, and you'll see yourself excel. Almost guaranteed. See a lot of improvement in your gameplay, and you're gonna see a lot more wins if you're playing this god. There's just no way you're not. Next up on the list is Aphrodite. Aphrodite should, if you paid any attention to this last patch, to the patch notes, to the PTS, to anyone ever who's played this god, Aphrodite should be banned every single game unless you are planning to top pick it. Aphrodite is the best god in the game. She's the best support in the game. Potentially played as a solo, mainly because you need to be building defense. You have to be very tanky to make it so you can do what's making her OP. And what's making her OP is they added an aspect to her kiss. When you link with teammates, you give them 20% of your protections. When you're going full defense, is a lot of protections. It's not broken by itself by any means, but it's a lot of protections. I mean, if you're sitting at 300 protections of physical, you're giving them 60 physical protections. If you're sitting at double 300, so 300 physical, 300 magical, they're getting 60 physical and 60 magical on top of their base, which is usually around like 60, sometimes a little bit higher. So say you're putting them at 120 of each protection. Then we're getting into the auras. And if you're support, you have these auras. You have your prophetic, you have your sentinel's embrace, you have your sovereignty, you have your heart ward. All that on top of the kiss. We're talking really high defense numbers. We're talking somebody with, a jungler with protecting the jungle is almost, if not breaking 300 of each protections with just protector. That's insane. I mean, a hunter is sitting at over 200. Over 200 protections is going to reduce the damage taken by upwards of half damage. So if an assassin jumps on your hunter, you're linked to him, that hunter is then going to take twice as long to die, while also pumping out the same, if not more damage. That's insane. Aphrodite's core item too, Rod of Asclepius, increases their healing, on top of them nerfing anti-healing, right? So anti-healing's cap anti-heal is 80%. So you can nerf someone's healing out of their 100% healing down to 20%. But Rod of Asclepius increases that by 30% more. So you're healing for 50% of your healing still. Well, 50, you know, it's a different, instead of 130, it's 50%. So it's way less than 50, but 50%. You're still healing for a lot. You're making your target, your carry, pretty much extremely tanky. The Rod of Asclepius is giving them 10% cooldown. And then if you decide to go for any other auras that aren't defensive, you're also giving them those buffs, the Shoguns or whatever else, if you choose to go that. The biggest thing is making your carry unkillable while still being extremely relevant to the team fight, because you've got the kiss to stun somebody and lock them down, setting up your carry to do whatever they need to do. You've got your ultimate to make you and your carry immune, which means you can be overly aggressive and not worry too much about it. You've also got your own actives, your shells and everything else on top of those things, plus the heal ticking, plus the self peel, which is a slow as well on your 2. So you can set up anybody diving your hunter or your mage if you're linked to that person. You knock back, it knocks back the jungler or whoever, it slows them, and then your carry is going to get off free autos, your mage is going to get off a free cast. Aphrodite is pretty much unstoppable right now. There's nothing that should be beating her unless your team falls extremely far behind or whoever you're linking to is not a very good player. And that's it. That's at its core. That is where Aphrodite stands. She's also not bad in the mid lane, just as a, you know, a consolation. Building her damage is not the best thing in the world because of the way they set her kiss up. If they set it up to give power or something else, it'd be a completely different story. But she's still playable in the mid lane and still very good in the mid lane. So she has that ability to play support, solo, and then potentially in the mid lane. There's Aphrodite. Third one up is Marticarus. Marticarus, I'm surprised by some people's reactions. I see a lot in my comments and on Twitch that they think Chiron or X-God is better than Marticarus. And there's 3 arguments I usually see. Can't safely clear. Is not safe in terms of being in lane, because of your lack of mobility, and can't just raw pump damage and aggress on somebody. And I don't know where all 3 of those thoughts are coming from, because they're completely incorrect. I don't know where those opinions were formed, but Marticarus is clear. The ranged clear is one of the safest clears in the game. You can clear from tower. The only other gods that can clear that safely are Nuwa. It's really just Nuwa. Marticarus has one of the safest clears in the game. Marticarus has a slow on that clear on the, I think that's his 1, right? Whatever his line ability is. That is your best clear by far, and it has slow that stays on the ground. So you can, and it's 35% or something crazy. So you have this soft CC that's always there. It is extremely annoying, as well as free clear. In terms of safety, if you're using your grass correctly, your grass gives you 40% movement speed. So if you have 3 grass nodes set up in your lane to get back to tower, you have more mobility than every other god outside of just, you know, their dash. When they don't, when you're not talking about dashes on a god, we're talking about running. No one's catching Marticarus. On top of that, your ultimate is an instant up in the air, an instant up down. That's the only, there's no one else that can react right away, cast their ability, and they're safe. It almost everybody has a channel, you know, a slight delay or something that keeps it from being instant. It can be interrupted. Marticarus can't. Someone's Mercury's dashing you and you ult at the very 0.1 last second, you're going up in there every time. And then that ult can do upwards of 2,000 to 2,500 damage if you hit every tick and you're full build. That's crazy. So you have a safety net that can pretty much turn around and one-shot somebody. That's ridiculous on its own. And then we're talking about the aggression. We're talking about someone compared Chiron as the best ability hunter, one of the better hunters right now because his ability to fight. No, Marticarus can free clear the lane and then still fight you because of his lower cooldowns. He's also excels as ability hunter and as an auto attack hunter. So depending on your matchup or how you think things are going to go, you can change that up and go whichever one you want. So you've got, you know, options and the variations there to kind of just get a leg up on your opponent. And in terms of anyone trying to fight a Marticarus has the root combo, which is going to lead into auto. So if you have the root combo into an auto, it's going to lead into another auto. If you have any amount of power, that's going to kill somebody. The god does ridiculous damage right now, even after his slight nerf. So for anyone to think that Chiron is better, I truly believe you're trolling. I think Chiron in the latest end of the game, when you're full build 3K pop and your ultimate has the potential to one-shot somebody, then we could, you know, have that conversation. But Marticarus ult can one-shot somebody. It's not a potential. It can, and it's very easy to land, where Chiron's at a max distance is not so easy to land. So I'm definitely 100% taking Marticarus every single time. If my hunter's Marticarus every game, I'm winning the game every single time. And then last up, I don't think this should be a surprise to anybody. It's Mercury. He got slightly nerfed through items and through the passive nerf to assassins and through the jungle farm. It doesn't matter. He's still one of the best farming. The only god that can really match him in the jungle and farming right now is Baka after the buffs, and it's not even a true match. Mercury's still out rotating, out clearing, moving around the map faster, has the semi-global ult, so ult up in the lane, has the easier gank potential, has the harder lockdown, has the better objective kill, and in every aspect of the game, from maybe not the earliest stage over Baka for sure, but maybe not the earliest stage, the best god in the game. Mercury's team fight, or gank at level 1-2 and fight in a 2v2 is not the best. You can win because you auto really hard, but it's not the best. Once you're talking like level 3, 4, 5, or the second you get Golden Blade online, it's over. Golden Blade makes Mercury the fastest farming god in the game. If your teammates are playing poorly and you can't get ganks off, you can literally just run around the map and farm, because you can invade safely as long as your ult is up, because you can just ult out if anyone shows up. You've got good mobility because of your 2 giving you movement speed. Speed buff is always going to be on you. You have Golden Blade, so as soon as those 3 things combined, you're already faster than everybody else. And then you've got the dash to use as an in and out. So that's the biggest aspect, is even your team is getting destroyed or having a terrible game, you can still out farm the enemy jungler, out farm the enemy team in general, just because of your clear. And then don't get it twisted. As soon as you have a rage, or especially a rage Deathbringer online, you're going to one-shot anybody you ult. If you're ulting properly and you're pinpoint ulting, where you ult and you stop right at the other side of the person you're ulting, you turn around and ult them twice, they're dead. Every mage, every hunter is dead. There's no reacting to that. There's not much you can do. Mercury has excelled this whole year. You see it played in the SPL. You've seen it played in the play-in tournaments before. Nothing has changed for Mercury. He is still extremely strong. The reasons are all right there. Crit is still very, very good, and that is, really why we're seeing hunters still not still, but playing at the top, because of how strong crit is, and because anti-crit is not that good. So your spectral armor and those things are not that good. So that's just piling on to this, list of things that really push Mercury over the top. And if it comes down to it, Quan versus Mercury in terms of which one you should pick or ban, I'd much rather play against an Quan than a Mercury every single time. Mercury is simple, very low mechanical skill. Pressing left click and auto attacking is not very difficult when, in the grand scheme of things, where an Quan needs to properly use his dash. If his dash is ever out, used incorrectly, he's probably going to get chased and die. He requires getting his kit off. To get his execute off, they have to not have beads. There's a huge list where Mercury just needs to hit 3 autos once full build. Those are 2 very, very different play styles, and the difficulty between the 2, you just see the Quang's rising and rising and rising as the game goes on, and as people, process what Quang's goal is. Mercury's goal is like, I want to get on top of you and auto attack. That's not something you can always stop. It's a very difficult thing to stop. So there's your SS tier. 4 gods are in there right now. Most people in the comments on the YouTube video agreed with this tier list overall. There was some arguments to little things like, why did Agni move down so far? Agni's still good. But the SS tier, I think this is your core 4, and I don't think it's even close. Those are who I would ban every single game, and then the other bans are just ones you find annoying or think gods you don't want to deal with. Now, I did say we were going to cover the C tier as well. C tier is important to cover, because these are gods you guys decide to play, not you guys, but people out there decide to play and get crushed on over and over and over again, but swear these gods are good. So we're going to talk about why they're bad, what high res could potentially do for some of them to make a difference, make them playable, maybe make you guys start winning and stop losing every game. And I'm very interested to see your comments on this, because I swear people argue about these gods all the time. So first up on the list is Artemis. Simple reasoning: immobile hunters cannot compete with all the other hunters that do the same thing with a mobility. Artemis has a CC immune ult, which is her one, saving grace. The problem with that is Magi's will counter it. Anyone diving you that has a Magi's, it's irrelevant. Anyone who has beads and knows it's coming, it's irrelevant. Or anyone who baits it out of you and then waits for it to disappear or dive deep into the, the back line for them to just go on you. There's nothing you can do at that point. Artemis has to be W king to be extremely relevant. And for Artemis to be W king, that means your team has to be positioning perfectly and engaging perfectly and have very good vision. None of those 3 things ever happen in a ranked game. So when you're playing Artemis, you're talking about a god with no mobility, really limited movement in general. The stim you're getting, which is the attack speed you're getting off your 2, is not that relevant, especially when compared to a lot of these other hunters and even some of these other gods that just get attack speed naturally. you know, in their passive or just from items, everything else. It's not competing. It's not even close. Artemis's trap, her one, might be one of the worst abilities in Smite, and there's no changing that at all. I mean, there are ways they could buff it and make it really good, but they haven't even touched it. And then the other thing with the ultimate is a lot of the times, if you drop that ultimate when it's right on the edge of the, you know, the limit from the god you're trying to fight, it won't attack him. It'll be out of range by the time it hits the ground. Now, say they made Artemis all like global or have a whole lane effect and you could use it for different things. Maybe then we'd see some more relevance, but not much. You'd still be talking about a hunter that does everything worse than every other hunter and is not as safe as every other hunter and doesn't hit harder than any other hunter. So why would you put this god any higher than C tier? Why would you play this god? It is horrible. It does not perform. It is one of the easiest gods in the game to gank. It is one of the harder. It has no clear. We're talking about Artemis has very little clear in lane. So if you aren't matching Artemis with a very strong guardian or warrior that can clear, you're never going to have pressure in lane, and pressure is what you need. We talked about being able to W key. You can't W key, which is, you know, holding W, running at somebody, running straight at them, fighting all the time. There's no way you're going to play this god and make it work. That's as simple as it gets. Next up, this one for 10 years has been a conversation topic. Chalk. Just chalk. In the tier list, I talk about how every chalk player goes Bluestone Transcendence, dies somewhere in there at least once, then starts trying to build defense items. First of all, if you're a chalk player, we need to have this conversation. Gladiator's shield does more damage based on your defense that you're building. So if you go Bluestone and Transcendence, you're not building any defense. You have no extra defense over your base defense. So when you build Gladiator Shield, it is doing no damage. It is almost completely irrelevant. It has a lower physical defense on it compared to a lot of these items you could build. It's not bad. It's like 50. It's got cooldown, which is cool, which is probably why you're building it. But it's that proc is not doing anything for you. It's doing no extra damage. You're so squishy at that stage in the game, and you aren't adding to your damage. So you're already committing to being you're a kill target, right? You're killable. But then you're building a Glad Shield. It's trying to not be killable, but you want to keep doing damage. You can't do that. When you're going Glad Shield, commit to a full defense build. You go Bluestone if you need clear, but outside of that, items defense build, and your success rate will go up immensely because that Glad Shield is going to do a little bit more damage. It's going to make up for the Transcendence damage you're losing, and you're also not going to die. And then if you decide to go Transcendence, honestly, you go full damage, but late game full damage chalk is irrelevant. You don't do enough damage, you die in your ultimate 99.9% of the time. So those are two major flaws in chalk and his potential playstyle. On top of that, just his kit in general does not scale into the mid to late game. Talk about a god with light hard CC. So he's got a knock up on his ultimate, and in reality, a chalk's diving usually by himself. That ultimate's not going to land most of the time in one way or another, between beads, dashing out, you know, jumping it, moving her out of it, whatever it may be. Chalk's ult is not going to be that relevant. It can be, but it's not going to be that relevant. And then your damage output is minimal between your 1 and your 2. Your 3 is a very frustrating ability on the map, on the way they have the map laid out now, and the fights in the jungle. I will give you that. But guess what? Heavenly and Wingblade are going to counter those things. And every support, you go into an Aphrodite or anybody, they're going to go Heavenly and just run right through your slows, and it's going to be irrelevant. And they're going to kill you at the same time because you built all that damage in the early game, in the mid game. They got to do something to chalk. I don't know what. More than likely, they would need to add a CC to his actual kit outside of his ultimate, and then go from there. But for right now, stop playing chalk. There's a million other warriors that are insanely good. Just play Hercules. If you need to have a heal on yourself, Hercules. Full defense. Unstoppable. Next up is Erlang Shen. We got to talk about Erlang Shen because somebody tried to play it in SPL yesterday and they got destroyed. Erlang Shen lost his knockup, which a lot of people seem to not understand. His 3 no longer knocks up. He has no knockup in his kit. His CCs are a root and a taunt. No hard CC outside of the taunt, right? But taunt's doing damage to you, so it's not even, you know, it's a hard CC, but it's not as hard as a knockup or a stun or whatever to completely stop you from doing anything. His pressure is so much lower than it used to be because of that lack of knockup. You have to have that knockup on this god to be able to have those fights that you want out of the jungle, because most people are playing Erlang Shen as a jungle, maybe as a soul laner. But not having that knockup means you don't really want to use your turtle form to give you the shield because you're not getting anything but the shield. That shield gets burnt right away. It's not that big of a shield. The changes they made to Erlang Shen's 1 is also not strong enough to keep him alive with the lack of CC. So the 1 is supposed to kind of stop damage on top of you, right? You're autoing somebody, that person can do less damage to you. The problem is by the time you get those autos off, you've already taken a lot of damage because you don't have the CC to get those autos off before taking damage. So you used to knock up, auto a couple of times, you know, auto, knock up, auto, And then by the time you're getting return damage, you're good. You've already established yourself in that team fight. Now you don't have that engagement. Now you've got blink, ult, and you taunt them, and they don't really care. They start doing damage to you. And with anti-heal being so strong right now, Erlang Shen's just not in the cards. It's not something you should be playing. It's a good thing he's dead because he was really relevant for so many years. And at a high level, SPL level, he was played all the time, and it wasn't fun to watch. So we're going to leave Erlang Shen dead for now. Next up is Yorm. Jormungandr. Jormungandr doesn't do anything. That's the problem. His kit is set up for him to do a lot of damage, which he does. You know, Hades-esque. But the problem is Hades has a tanky aspect to him. So when he dives in, he's in your face. He's there and he's not going to die even with damage. Yorm doesn't have that. Yorm has let me go up in the air. It's very easy to avoid Yorm ult. So you're not going to get that damage off. And during that time, his teammates are in a 4v5. That's my biggest issue with Yorm. His laning phase is okay. As long as he's reacting fast enough, he shouldn't ever get ganked. It's similar to, you know, Surtur, where he's got that ultimate to just get out and leave. He's knock immune and not get, you know, that's a massive thing to not be able to be pulled or knocked up. Makes a big difference. But the fact that his ult takes him off the board doesn't create the pressure that you need because he's off the board, and his presence isn't felt when he's up in that ultimate. That I have my biggest issue with him. He's also a massive target, so it's Cthulhu style where he's a massive target when he's not, you know, up in the air. He's on the ground, he's right there to your face, very easy to hit. He is still CCable, he can be stunned, all that stuff. He ends up being killed first. I'm targeting a Yorm, especially since most Yorms are going to have to build damage to be really relevant in the ultimate. They're not going to be full tank. If they are full tank, they die a little bit slower, but they're still easy targets to go after. And that is why Yorm is really just not excelling and hasn't been for a long time. There's a million gods you can play in the solo lane or in a bunch of other lanes that do it better. And as a support, he has no hard CC. He is completely irrelevant to the team fight. And if you're a support ulting in, your team has no front line if you do that. The second you do that, so it's over. Next up on the list, our C tier, our bottom tier, Kuzimbo. I like Kuzimbo. I actually like Kuzimbo. I think he should be a solo laner, not a support, because he's single target, you know, focused. And to be honest, the real way to make him better is to buff his 3 again. His 3 used to pretty much one shot if you push somebody through creeps, which is pretty cool to see and really unexpected. Most of the time it happened. They nerfed the hell out of that. They've made him tankier over time, but the tankiness is not making up for it because he's so single target focused, and his clear and everything isn't that good. He's not winning lane. He's not going to rotate into a team fight and kill a bunch of people. He's going to CC one target and ult, and then try to CC another target again. And during that time, that's a big time frame. We're talking between 3, a full ult cast, and another 3 coming back up. That either he's taking so much damage he doesn't want to go back in, someone's died on his team already, or you just you know, your team started winning a team fight without you because you're there, you're just existing. I think Kuzimbo is an annoying god when Hi-Rez has his damage numbers set up correctly and he can actually have kill potential. I don't think he'll ever be a support, and I think that's okay. I don't think he should be playing in support. He's not winning lane all the time because his 1 can be canceled. That's another thing. His 1 being able to be blocked by a god makes it so his 3 needs to be more valuable to him. And that's kind of it. That's crazy that 1 ability can really control where he plays. Like by itself, that 1 ability will control whether he's a C tier or a higher tier. If they buff that ability, I think he'll be in a good place. And if they were to do something to his 2, make him, you know, crit immune or something so we can walk at hunters right now, that would spike his relevance and his viability immensely. But overall, he's not clearing, he's not killing somebody in a 1v1, he's not you know, out CCing most of the other gods of the game, or really any other god of the game, and his 2 is not reflecting enough damage to be afraid to kill him. And the combination of those things just pushes him really low down there, on top of him not being a support as a guardian, which usually doesn't work out. Look at Yorm, it's the same situation. So that's Kuzimbo. I like Kuzimbo. I'd be down for Kuzimbo to be in the game because I think it's kind of funny to see him make plays. Last up, definitely least, Scotty. We saw Scotty get buffed. We were like, oh, Scotty's gonna be good now. No, Scotty struggles with a lot of things that are outside of just the gods' control, and it's a lot of what Hi-Rez has set up, but also the gods' control. Scotty's immobile. She has no movement. She gets a little bit of movement speed, similar to Artemis, right? That's gonna make her struggle. Except for she doesn't have a CC immunity, so Artemis then has a little bit of edge there because Artemis being dove can CC immune run away. Scotty can't. Scotty gets dove, anyone on top of her. If she can't turn and one-shot somebody, which is very rare with her kit, she's gonna die. Her lane clear is decent. It is not bad, don't get me wrong. I don't mind Scotty's lane clear, definitely better than Artemis. But that lane clear doesn't result in kills because it's not high lane clear. You're not out clearing all these other hunters that do everything and have mobility and have CC immune ults and all this other stuff, right? So that's gonna push Scotty even lower down. And the thing that is very frustrating is the way the jungle works right now. The closest target to a jungle camp is going to tank it. So Scotty's dog gets destroyed in jungle camps unless Scotty is up in their face. And if Scotty's up in their face, then Scotty's getting poked and taking damage. So your jungle clear is affected in a really awkward and bad way that I don't like that either. It hurts her a lot. It makes it very difficult to maintain full health all the time while jungle clearing or your dog not dying. And if your dog's dead, then your dog's irrelevant to the team fight or irrelevant to whatever, you know, fight you're about to get into. I don't really have anything that makes Scotty better. The fact that they buffed her dog so it regens the health faster is cool. But in a team fight, the dog insta-dies. The dog jumps on somebody, gets, you know, the little bit of damage off the one hit. So even it's a good amount of damage if you're ability based. We're talking like 500 to 800 damage. But then the dog instantly dies. And then you're, you know, stuck on an island with no mobility, having to stand right next to your teammates to stay at all safe. And if anyone's already been diving you during that time, you're dead. Scotty's in a similar situation to Artemis, where you want to be diving and W king all the time. And her kit doesn't make it easy to do. The gods that are good at the game and strong in the game stop that from happening. And being dove right now is pretty much the common theme from solos, supports, and assassins. It's been meta for years. The dive comp usually ends up winning the game. If you're being dove, you won't be in control of what happens in the game, and that's what pushes her even lower. You don't have turn potential. You don't have crazy outplay potential. You don't have objective burn. You don't do anything at all better than these other gods. Even looking at the B tier, you don't do anything better than AMC, on her, Medusa. All those gods have mobility, or more consistent mobility, or more burst, or more turn potential if they're being dove. All these things that just make playing the game a little bit easier, bumps them up. All these gods struggle to do the core basis of Smite for their role. And that's why you're seeing them in the C tier. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you guys are understanding why these gods are where they are. Those of you who have arguments, or, you know, you love your chalk, now you know. And maybe you'll start to process that these gods are not good. You'll pick up a better god and you'll start winning some game. Maybe. I don't know. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Please let me know. Like, actually in the comments, let me know if you want me to do this, because I'll do this for all the roles. I chose SS tier and C tier because those are where a lot of arguments always are. And because SS tier is usually a big jump, like Aphrodite jump from C tier, I think, from bottom tier to SS tier, which is crazy, but it's accurate. I promise it's accurate. But these other tiers are massive. S tier, A plus, and A are a lot of gods. So there'll be their own videos if I do them, if you guys want me to do them. So just let me know. Gladly, I enjoy making these videos and explaining stuff and just, you know, talking Smite. So please, comments. Let me know if you want it. Let me know if you like the video. If you have any comments or concerns about what I talked about, let me know. I'll answer them. And yeah, just make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. I'll see you in the video tomorrow, the next day, and the next day.